Namaste, many blessings, everyone. It's Verda Luz from Divine Timing Coaching. Yes, the sacred geometry constellation mask, donning this. Ugh. Wore that so many times in the last 2 weeks while I was in Mexico, and many other masks, all different varieties. I'm going to share with you a little bit about my international travels during COVID, and connecting that with some of the astrology that we're going through at this time. The main point of this video is to tell you about the August astrology transits. There's so much happening in the skies that I wanted to create a video this month with the forecast and prepare you for what's coming this fall. There's just so much big energy in the sky, and it just, this year of 2020 has uh, the most explosive transits probably a lot of us have ever seen, and may for a little while. So we need all the support we can get, and we need to try to laugh, especially during these Leo times. I'm going to share all about the Aquarius full moon, which is square Uranus. So this is important for this next week coming in, actually on Monday. This is going to be August 3rd. And we're going to go into basically the outline of the month, including the next new moon in Leo in a few weeks. We have Uranus stationing retrograde. That's going to be important. We also have big sign changes of Venus and Mercury. Finally, both of them have been in their signs for a long time. So we got Cancer and Leo archetypes being activated there. And then I am going to share with you a little passage from some of the writing I've been doing about the travels. I just got back a couple days ago, and it was an intense trip. There was everything in such a short period of time, really, about 11 or 12 days. And it's a very different world now. I've traveled to about 40 countries, so this is a very different kind of travel experience. So I'm trying to play with it a little bit in my writing, and I hope you enjoy it. I'm probably going to be doing a few blogs and vlogs with some of the photos and some audio of me reading the essays. And I hope it's just insightful and bring some entertainment at this time for you. Let's get into the transits and what's happening right now. So we are in, we are in a time of fire, right? We are in the Leo time of the year. And when it's Leo sun sign, we know that we're going to have a full moon in the opposite sign of Aquarius. And that full moon is at the 10th degree of Aquarius on August 3rd, Monday, August 3rd. And it's really symbolic of the roller coaster ride we've been on. That ride of 2020. It's like, it's kind of like we're just up and down. It's just undulations, fluctuations all the time. And this full moon emphasizes that theme because it's in a pretty much perfect square, which can sometimes be a perfect storm, to the planet Uranus at 10 degrees of Taurus. And Uranus has been trying to revolutionize our relationship to Mother Earth. A lot of us maybe have done something radical we've never done before, like gardening this year. Taurus thing, getting in the earth, making food, making our own food, hopefully reinventing our relationship to sustenance, and sensuality, being out in nature more. Hopefully a lot of us have been doing that this summer, and that's definitely one of the best ways of working with the cycles this month, is really getting into healthy regimes, especially physical regimes, with what's going on with Mars, and we'll get to that in a minute. But this full moon emphasizes the need to find freedom amidst a lot of a sense of, at times, feeling very constrained or trapped in some ways. And that feeling of constrained or trapped can come in even deeper as the fall cycles unfold, because we're going to have a Mars square to Saturn. That's even going to start to come in by the end of the month. So that feeling can be like driving with the brakes on. So what happens in August is that we get this surge right at the beginning with this Aquarius full moon, and we want more independence. We want to find our community, and it's very important that we find a way to express ourselves authentically and creatively and playfully. Leo energy, sun sign Leo. But for what, right? We need a community of people who can appreciate that. And we also need to think of who we belong to and how we can contribute to those communities. And a lot of those may be virtual right now, again, emphasizing Aquarian themes of technology. Um, so uh, there's also, of course, Aquarius as the protests and rebellious and revolutionary energy. Those are going to continue around the country. It was kind of interesting. There was, maybe you heard about this thing called the Wall of Moms in Portland, where there was a lot of protests in Portland, Oregon, and this Wall of Moms protecting, like, protesters. And that was interesting because Mercury was in Cancer at the time after this retrograde cycle, and emphasizing the theme of the mother archetype, the great mother, the nurturer, right? But then it got very complicated because then just 2 days ago, if you read the report, you can see that there was some allegations of um, kind of racism within that movement, and very confusing. And that's part of this whole cycle. It's very, very hard to know what's going on, what's the truth. There's agendas coming from every direction, which really emphasizes the Saturn-Pluto conjunction that's been with us all year, but is coming back into its peak really, really soon here. In fact, let me give you the exact dates of that you've probably heard about again and again all year, the Saturn-Pluto conjunction that is really the toppling of the entire worldview that we've been in and taken for granted for a long time. This whole systemic change that needs to happen. And of course, this kind of pandemic, conspiratorial plandemic that people have talked about. Conspiracy theories are part of Saturn-Pluto cycles all the time. Go back to 2001 and we see them, 9/11, right? We see them in the mid-'80s during 1984, and all of that kind of, what's going on with totalitarianism and with the East and the West, and Reagan and Gorbachev, and World War III can come at any time, and that kind of intense doom-laden energy of Saturn-Pluto. It's been with us all year, right? And we need to, continue to harness patience during this time, which is really difficult with a lot of fire in the sky, and especially with Mars and Aries. So before getting there, let's look at Saturn-Pluto. The exact conjunction comes in again here. There's 25, and it's going to come in right around, well, it's not exact again through this year, but it's actually most exact pretty much like end of August. And when we look into September, and September is going to be another wild ride, but we know that this level of drama and intensity and complication and corruption, that is strong with us during this time. And this Aquarius full moon, with the ruler of Aquarius in modern astrology, Uranus, squaring it, is going to make us really get rebellious against all of that, not trust a lot of that. But it's also an invitation for us to break through to a new level of consciousness, to really find subject matters that are metaphysical. Uranus rules metaphysics, like astrology, like human design, like numerology, like energy work of all kinds, distance Reiki, breath work, something that I love facilitating. Also, dance can be a really powerful way to move through August, because dance plays with that Leo archetype of being more fun, more childlike, more playful. And that's a really important thing during this cycle, because Mars is in Aries. Mars has been already in his shadow retrograde period in Aries, and he's going to stay in Aries until January 6th, 2021. So Mars went into Aries like right around July 1st, end of June, and beginning a 6-month cycle. Usually Mars is only in a sign for 6 to 8 weeks. So we have 6 months. Mars in his home sign. And so a planet in its own sign is very, very strong. It's the king of that castle, the queen of that castle. It can do what it wants. And the thing is, with Mars in Aries, it wants to do what it wants all the time. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It's very impulsive. It's very independent. It's very freedom loving. It's very adventurous. And we've probably all been feeling some of that push to go out and explore and hike. And I saw on this trip how many people were traveling, and it just blew my mind. That's part of the Mars and Aries. It's also that build up, right? We've been building this energy up for months around the world of like, we can't go anywhere. We can't go anywhere. So that now when we hit Mars in this fiery, feisty, combustible energy of Aries, doesn't want to say no to any, doesn't want to say yes to anyone but itself. Excuse me. Let me get my water here. And so we have this, this kind of raging fire of Mars and Aries with the Sun in Leo, and pretty soon Mercury in Leo. Mercury is going to get into Leo, let's see, by the 4th here. Is that right? Let me make sure for you. Mercury goes into Leo, yes, on the 4th in the States. This addition of, so now it's 3 planets in fire, right? And coming back to Mars, not following anyone's rules, including the government's, including what people say about masks in public, right? Definitely on planes. I was blown away. I'm going to read you a passage about the American Airlines lack of policy around this. But even just the other day, I was picking up some honey at a local fruit and veggie stand, and just a guy walks up with like his mask like rolling off his wrist, and the guy who works there rolls up without his mask on and slowly takes it off, and almost like haphazardly, nonchalantly putting it there. And it's kind of like, that is kind of Mars and Aries. Like, I don't really want to do this. I'm going to do that because I have to, but really I'm going to do what I want to do. And, that's a simple, very simple way of interpreting that. But this is really important because this cycle can become fraught with conflict, where there can be differing viewpoints on what we should or shouldn't do, and people getting quite aggressive or defensive about that. So be careful in your personal relationships with this cycle, because Mars in Aries doesn't have a lot of patience for another. What you want to do is focus on what we can build together, projects we can work on, and giving each other enough space. Aries energy doesn't, for the masculine archetype, Mars, for the wheel center, Mars, doesn't like a lot of containment, right? It doesn't, think of the ram, right? Like you don't like to put a ram in a cage. That's not going to be a good scene. It will just keep trying to get out. So interpersonally, we need to create space, or do competitive things together, aerobic things, dance together, kickbox, hike. Obviously, you can do that right now, but that's really important. Dance, like I said, regular exercise is really important during this fiery time that we're in this month. So making sure to do that on a daily basis, and think, what can you do right now that can get you healthier physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and put that fire behind doing those things every day, getting very motivated around that. Aries is a motivated sign. It's not just like, I'm just going to sit back and do nothing. We have this ability right now to, especially before the retrograde, which doesn't come in until September 9th, we can actually move forward on some projects and do some things. But it's not without some strife, tension, and conflict. And you're going to see that just out in public. People will be less patient, less understanding, and probably more aggressive. What we are going to see as the month increases, just to note that, August has a little bit more spaciousness around it than September does, maybe even than July. But as the month goes on, it gets more intense because Mars is moving towards the triple square. And this is something that we've already been feeling, because as soon as you have a square between signs, Aries and Capricorn, you're going to feel the energy of it. So Mars came in, beginning of July or late June, and started to square all those planets in Capricorn. But the exactitude of that really starts in August and continues through September and October and November, December, because of the retrograde. So Mars is squaring in 3 passes of exact squares. Jupiter at 19 degrees of Aries and Capricorn. That happens now, this week, it begins. Pluto, Mars squares Pluto at 23 degrees by August 13th. So he's coming closer to Pluto. And then Mars squares Saturn, 26 degrees by August 24th. So intensification. The Jupiter square is less intimidating, maybe, let's say, or overwhelming, or overpowering than like the Pluto square, the Mars-Pluto square. That's definitely a will to power. It's definitely a surge for what we want, and a very ruthless kind of energy, Mars squared Pluto. And definitely we'll see some, often corrupt energy with that, or power plays and control issues come up. Shadows can really get almost violent at times with the Mars-Pluto. We want to be careful with that transit, which will be really strong a lot of this month, but definitely from like the 10th to the 22nd, 23rd. Mars-Jupiter is more, we feel restless and we need to get very physical. We need to move our bodies. We need to get also motivated towards Jupiterian things like teaching and bringing wisdom to the world, right? And philosophy and religiously oriented concepts and things that inspire us, right? So that's a great way to work with the Mars squared Jupiter. And if you're a teacher of some kind, it may be motivating to put together a class, a webinar, and get out there and share that, right? And you can go to the depths of whatever you're studying or whatever you're teaching or offering because of the Pluto square, right? This is the higher side. When Mars squares Saturn, we are in for quite a journey, which is that cycle is going to be really, really strong into September as well. And Mars square Saturn. I mean, Saturn rules things like, the government, the institutions, the authorities, and the square to Saturn will be in effect during Mars retrograde, really strong, starting September 9th. So that feels like I want to do this, Mars and Aries, and I have a lot of desires with Mars and Aries, and I'm being squared, challenged, tensely conflicted by Saturn and Capricorn. Rule, law, order, limitation. I mean, all Americans are experiencing this right now because we can't go almost anywhere. Like Costa Rica is going to open its borders, not to Americans. Obviously Europe, if you've been following the news and all this, there's almost nowhere to go for Americans. And that might even happen for non-Americans now too. Like there could be more lockdowns. There could be more. Lockdown is a very Saturn in Capricorn. Saturn square Mars. What we want to do, we can't. Mars in Aries, I want to move. I want to be wherever I want to be, and I can't. And that is not going away. It's going to increase. So then it's going to make us ask what we really do want and why we do want it. And that will be a big theme for the 2-month retrograde starting in September. So one of the things to consider during this is, what can you, if you know you're coming into a battle, and if you know you might feel less freedom than you do now, not that we have a lot of freedom right now, how could you make the best use of that? How could you prepare yourself? And maybe not plan to think that there's going to be like some big trip abroad in October or November, or that suddenly everything's just going to be blissful in terms of the external world, right? And what can you work on? What projects can you work on that are also going to be more long-term in terms of their revelation? Because Mars-Saturn, the gift of Mars-Saturn is resilience, is a commitment through time, perseverance, a longer-term strategy. But hardcore action gets frustrated, right? We don't feel like we can move forward. So Mars square Saturn already has that theme, that frustration theme. And then you add the retrograde coming in the fall, and it adds another layer of that. we'll continue to unpack, more about Mars retrograde and Mars Saturn in future, videos and courses and classes and all of that. But this is coming in, and meanwhile, Venus is changing signs beginning August 7th. She's finally out of Gemini, and what has she been doing in Gemini? Well, asking us to live very virtually, connecting us with many different people, getting curious about all kinds of topics maybe we never were curious about before, or just never took the time to learn, right? It's been a time of tons of Zoom webinars and online conferences and online festivals and events, and probably a lot of learning for us, but also a lot of scatteredness and distractedness. Venus is in Mercury sign of Gemini, so it's like, we've been all over the place mentally, right? And now she's going to go into the soft, slow, more sensitive Cancer beginning August 7th for the rest of the month. And we're going to be more, needing to cuddle and huddle back in, what's going to be our emotional home this month? How can I nurture myself, my beloveds, my family members? Remember, as soon as Venus goes into Cancer, she's going to start the opposition to all of those Capricorn planets. And, again, it'll get stronger as the month goes on, but you'll start to feel some of that tension. It gets pretty strong when Venus opposes Saturn, and that is going to come in just at the end of the month into early September. And then Venus will also be opposing Pluto at that time. Now, this is going to be potentially quite cathartic, intense, dramatic, transformational in terms of relationships, in terms of our values. I would expect that there will be some kind of either like financial loss in like the global economy or Wall Street, or something like that, with Venus opposite Saturn, opposite Pluto. It could be very, very strong in terms of the loss. I mean, she's also kind of opposite Jupiter with that. So that's something we have to prepare for as well. Use your resources wisely. When we're in relationship, again, we're needing to bring a lot of compassion, Cancer, and tending to the inner child, right? But also with Mercury now moving into Leo out of Gemini, out of Cancer, then you also have the playful child, the creative child wanting to come out, the solar child. So we have both this inner child wanting to be nurtured, wanting to feel safe and reassured, Venus in Cancer, at home within itself. And then we have this playful, expressive, brilliant, bold, charismatic, charming kind of Leo child. So we want to be able to express both of those children in this next month. And then you have another child, which is the Aries child of Mars, which is just more of like the 2-year-old with the temper tantrum. Sometimes it's very cute, and then sometimes it's really like, we want to choke that energy and stop it because it's so annoying or irritating. So we have to watch that within ourselves during this time, that we're not pushy, forceful, and aggressive. So all that being said, these are some of the main cycles this month. Of course, at the end of the month, we always get, Sun moving into Virgo. Mercury will also be moving into Virgo. Sun goes in on the 22nd. August 19th, Mercury goes in. So we'll start to have a lot more earthy energy come in by the end of the month, which will probably be very nice to ground some of that energy. Mercury's in his home sign at that time, so mentally we'll be very sharp. Probably be able to see more clearly on some things going on, what we're trying to achieve. And it's going to be, we're going to be able to get a little bit more sacred with our energy, more devotional. Right now it's a little bit more explosive. We're also going to be thinking a lot about education. And that's something that I have coming up with a few other great teachers, where we're going to be teaching, offering some classes for parents, because a lot of schools are going to be virtual, or at least partially virtual. How are we going to navigate this? Well, we need new tools. So we're going to be offering amazing tools, some rites of passage work, some work with the archetypes, with astrology, with the human design. So stay tuned for that. Also, it's going to be, I think the earthy energy is going to help ground out all of this, it's kind of more intense vibe that we'll feel in the weeks leading up to the end of the month. So give yourself some loving, some TLC, tender loving care every day. Give that to your lovers, beloveds. Eat really well. This is really important. Find those things that are really healthy for you. It was not the healthiest of trip traveling. I'm going to share my story with you here, and I hope you'll tune into some future blogs and vlogs about the travel experience. This is one of my creative outlets during this, Leo time that we're in. It's good to find your self-expression, and so I'm going to read to you from one of the passages from this, and you can just take the journey with me here. But intense, something that we should all, consider how we can make the most of those places that are an hour away, 2 hours away, 5 hours away by car. And if you are going to travel by air, just to be prepared, like what it's really like out there. And not that you have to be in fear, but just reality checks about everything. So I'm going to grab some water and then just read you a passage here. Setting up the flight out. And we start with tequila. Tequila con crema. In a gigantic Toys R Us size, everything in one place, tourist shop near 5th Avenue in Playa del Carmen. Tequila con crema. We need it now, more than ever. We need a break from the slap in the face, which was American Airlines flight number 802, a flight which had 0 social distancing on the tunnel walk into the airplane. Everyone all piled up on each other like normal, like the metaphorical sardines in the can of old world travel, like starved mice chasing a single slice of cheese, as if we were feasting once again back in the blissfully ignorant and safe confines of December 2019. At the Asheville airport, moments before, we thought we were good. Only 1 seat available for every 3 to sit on. The others reading the seat is not available. But then the boarding call and the lineup and the herds of cattle headed on to slaughter on our second flight from Charlotte to Cancun. All of us so eager to leave, to go anywhere, to get out and forget about what was happening, even if it would be so literally in our faces in every aisle we walked past. Full masked passenger, full masked passenger, tucked snugly against half-masked passenger. Yes, too many to count, with masks just covering their mouth, not their nose. Why? And what? What is the logic here? Was it an official government report that said, hey, my fellow Americans, don't worry about those masks so much. You only have to wear it over your mouth. Think of it as a fashion statement of 2020 and make sure to buy a plane ticket lest billion-dollar companies go bankrupt. Do we really need to reference Sarah Bondel's May 2020 article, 5 mistakes you may be making when wearing face masks? Mistake number 1, your mask only covers your mouth. If your mask only covers your mouth, you're wearing it wrong. We breathe partially or completely through our nose, and you can become infected by breathing in viral particles through your nostrils. A mask worn only over the mouth won't contain droplets if you sneeze. If your nose is not covered by a mask, you also risk contamination from the mask itself, which collects germs on its exterior. But most passengers didn't seem to get that memo. And American Airlines decided that yes, indeed, all middle seats should be occupied, full with some fear, some loathing, some courage, some ignorance. A gazpacho soup of emotions swirling in row after row of weary or curious eyes. suspicious or escapist eyes. All in this boat together, all in this plane, this pandemic, this conspiratorial plandemic, this blurred 2020 vision together. American Airlines policies seem to be none besides the obligatory international regulation to wear masks on planes as loosely as you want. The policy they seem to pledge allegiance to most is the American ethic of the bottom line, the butts in seats, dollars in pockets, no matter whose health could be compromised. My partner and I try not to think about it. We practice positive visualization, beaches all to ourselves, empty of tourists, crystal clear aquamarine seas with angelfish and barracuda winking at us. Up all nights counting stars and discovering constellations and reading their stories to each other in our eyes, in our relaxed, unworried eyes, eyes not on planes or congested ferry boat nightmare scenarios about to besiege us. But our serene visualization is broken when someone coughs. And we stare at each other with our masks on, with worried eyes, unrelaxed eyes, eyes that ask the anxious why. And we'll ask it again when we line up in Cancun immigration behind way too many people who ignore the signs painted on the ground of the immigration lines. Circular green signs painted with red letters, bold, and slightly fatter stick figure humans separated from each other, reading in plain English for the sake of all the tourists. Maintain a safe social distance of 6 feet. Nobody pays attention to these or follows their guidelines. No. We are ravished. Dry throats are thirsty for intoxicants. We need the beach, the drinks, the fantasy island idea of utopia somewhere other than where we came from, our nowhere point of no return. Why? Why are there so many damn people traveling right now? And why are we two of them? Why do I have to get profiled for my arm tattoo and get called to extra bag security check? Some of the personnel seem to be taking out every damn item from the bags. Others barely take a minute and then shoo the tourists on like unwanted flies harassing a watermelon at a family reunion picnic. Don't think about the illegal substances in the bags, the reveries you hope to share on the empty beach under those eternal stars. Just be cool. They are following protocol. Just unzip the bags like he asks without saying a word. The young 20-something male security guard in front of me, but behind his surgical mask, seemingly distracted by what? A tourist girl he's attracted to? An international incident unfolding? Daydreaming a job working at a resort he wishes he'd taken instead of this one? And then he shoos both of us off, my partner and I, fortunate flies. We scurry out of the airport like squirrels, hungry to get to the ferry, to get to the resort, to get there, anywhere but the airport, finally away from the madness of so many people after months of solitude, after months of barely setting foot in grocery stores and sneaking back home as soon as possible. Those timeless days in vast open lawns of southeastern states and rolling blue Appalachian hills, lawns that can take entire days to mow, lawns with long, slow morning bird songs and clouds baptizing the maples who stretch their leafy green arms to pray to heaven's painted stars, patient stars. But those altars have vanished, and now we rush at each other with impatient eyes. We don't know where this restaurant is, bags under our eyes, bags in our hands, as we try to find the shuttle driver with her last name, scrawled on cardboard, my partner's last name scrawled there on the cardboard, only to be met by the first bar outdoors, right outside the doors of the airport, the bar, the tourists with masks down and beers up, mask hidden or mask non-existent. And we look at each other again, worried eyes, unrelaxed eyes. All right, thank you guys for checking out this story, or part of this story, about our trip to Mexico. There was a lot of beauty, diving, cenotes, some great food along the way, but a lot of craziness to get there and to get back and to stay there. So hope you stay tuned for some further slam storytelling, travel COVID storytelling, and wishing you all a lot of creativity and play in the next few weeks here, and health always. I'm Berta Luce from Divine Timing Coaching. Namaste.